central bankers, and you also need to generate profit. And then, I don't know, there might be some other inherent differences in how effective you run these facilities. I don't know what you pay for waste collection in Spain or in other countries. I personally, for my family, we are 4 people, we pay 400 euros every year for total waste service, which includes a weekly collection of residual waste, curbside collection every fortnight of bulky waste and garden waste, a drop-off center within 100 meters of my house where I can leave paper, glasses and civic amenity sites within half a kilometer where I can drop off anything else that needs to be recycled. And that I pay 400 euros for every year. The price in Denmark varies from, say, 300 to 450 euros per year for a family. And that's what we pay for all these incineration plants and all that. So I'm not sure that it's really expensive. Another typical story, and I think this morning we heard a little bit about dioxin from the lady from the POP convention, is that dioxin is dangerous. Yes, in the 1990s, and I think this morning you were shown data from the 1995, dioxin was a huge problem. This data is from the German Federal Ministry of Environment, and in the 1990, 1/3 of the total dioxin emissions in Germany was because of waste incineration. That's a lot. That's a problem. And the total emission of dioxin was quite big. But since then, a lot of measures have been put in place to stop dioxin, not only with waste incineration, but in all sectors. So you can see, for example, from the German data, that the total German emission has been reduced to 6% of what it was in 1990. And of that, waste incineration now only contributes with less than 1%. So when people tell your politicians, and maybe some of you are politicians, I don't know, but when people tell your politicians that we cannot have waste incineration because we are all going to get sick from dioxin, they are telling about the story from 1990 and before, not the story of today. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind when we have to explain what are we doing. And I hear a lot of people who have presented today have said we need to be transparent, we need to explain and educate. Yes, I mean there's nothing to hide actually. The numbers and the data is very telling. Okay, how are we performing? The typical story is you need to feed the monster. You need to feed the incinerator. And therefore there will be no recycling. I would like to say that that's not true. Actually, what is the case is that you need to be either you're organized, and you're so organized that you can have a complete integrated waste management system that consists of incineration, of recycling, of composting, of anaerobic digestion, and the data show that very clearly that those who recycle, those who incinerate the most are also among those who recycle the most. If you can almost use this data to say if you don't incinerate, you don't recycle. That's of course wrong. But it's really a matter of being organized or not a matter of whether you incinerate or whether you recycle. And I think the data is really clear on that. And I think we need to explain that to people when they're worried. Because incinerators are not the answer to everything. Recycling also not. Biocomposting also not. Anaerobic digestion also not. We need to be able to apply the entire toolkit in the best way. Okay, what about emissions? Here I've only picked up the emissions of greenhouse gases. And I know that this can be done in many different ways with a lot of different assumptions. These are based on Danish assumptions, where, for example, if you landfill directly in a good landfill where you capture a lot of the landfill gas, you have, of course, a huge emission from the landfill. You have some benefit from the landfill gas that you capture and use, which gives you, in total, a very negative impact, 330 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per ton of waste. If you have incineration with power only, with very conservative estimates and assumptions, you have a very small negative, well, almost zero net impact. if you use both the heat and power, as we do here today, and I think they should turn up the aircon a little bit, because then they can use more of the waste at the incineration plant here in Mataro, then you have a very good positive impact. You actually contribute net to reducing the total greenhouse gas emission. And the other numbers refer to select recycling of source-separated materials, so I don't want to go into that now. But I would mention that, for example, the way that we manage waste in Denmark today is a net reducer of greenhouse gases. So the entire waste management sector in Denmark net contributes to a lower emission of greenhouse gases than it would have otherwise. All in Europe, it's estimated that all of Europe might be there in, say, 10, 12 years. Some countries are there, some are not there at all yet. So are we achieving the landfill diversion targets? A lot of countries, and I think we've seen this today, a lot of countries in Europe have a very big challenge ahead of achieving these landfill diversion targets. And some have achieved them already, especially those countries that introduced landfill bans not so long ago or long ago. Okay, another issue is the plume, that you can see what is coming out of the stack. I'm not sure about Spain whether you do that here, but I know in some places the incinerators are actually equipped with a system to reheat the exhaust gases so that you don't see the plume. The plume is of course just water vapor. There's nothing wrong with that, and where I'm from, where it's quite cold, the plume is really visual, especially in the winter. If it's minus 20 outside, the plume is really something you can see. This new plant that is being planned for Copenhagen, they actually will be having a small feature where for every ton of CO2, it will be making a smoke ring and send these smoke rings up into the sky. That's not hiding the facts. That's actually making a statement. And I really look forward to seeing that in 2016. But actually what you do if you do try to suppress the flue gas and avoid having to see the plume is that you spend energy taking away a non-problem. You are actually wasting energy, you're contributing to the greenhouse gas problem by eliminating a visual problem. And some countries do that. I don't know if you do. I don't think so. Okay, what about the visual impact? Is it ugly? Is it something nasty, and can we live nearby? This particular facility is north of Copenhagen, and the closest resident lives 50 meters from the plant. There are houses here, houses here. As I said, we've had these for 100 years, we're used to them. They are not causing any problems other than traffic. And traffic is a problem. We don't like a lot of trucks coming. So that is the key problem. There's no noise, there's no odor. All that you can engineer away. But what they do is they have a neighborhood group where all the people living nearby are part of a committee that meets every quarter, every half year with the management of the facility and discuss what are their problems. And I know for a fact that there's a lady living there, and when she has a garden party, she talks to the manager of the plant and says, "Can you please close the doors to the tipping area during this weekend because I'm having a garden party?" And then they will do that. This other plant is a huge plant in Copenhagen, 70 tons per hour, and you also see residents are living quite nearby. I'm sure you all know this one, it's been shown today also, it's the one in Vienna. People are living right next to it. This is the new one in Copenhagen, and this one is one that will be built in 2014, they're starting now,